Good afternoon. My name is Lavinia Dowling, and I am director and founder of the M Word. And today is our Unearthing program. We've got our lovely guest, Yasmin Alexandria from the who's our social media manager and who's been my ever rock of support when we come up to talking about what are we going to talk about this week, usually sort of like Tuesday evening. There's been a few clients that I've been meeting, and it is extremely apparent that we need to revisit masking because it's such a big issue for so many people who unwittingly do not know they're on the autistic spectrum, but obviously feel quite stressed, and obviously parents who are seeing their children masking throughout the school day. Just as a first thought, Yasmin, what is it that you kind of think about when we talk about the word masking?
I don't notice I do it anymore, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going out into public, I must pretend to be this other person. I think it's just over the years, you've had, example, I remember very vividly when I was in year 4, we did a project on the Romans and Sparta, and my teacher came in dressed in a Harry Potter uniform, and I'd never seen the Harry Potter series at that point. And so I put my hand up and I very innocently asked, why are you dressed as Harry Potter? And she pulled me aside after that saying, you broke the illusion. And so I'm like, oh Christ. And now I don't say anything if it's like, so I've learned over time certain things I can't do or shouldn't do. It's kind of frowned upon. So I think masking isn't necessarily something I think about doing now. It's just something that happens because I'm like, oh great, I've got to deal with these kind of people, so I've got to, I can't do this or I can't do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really lovely response. Mental health beginning to break down, the anxieties building, the low mood is definitely increasing, and you realize that you don't really want to be around people for fear of being told off, for fear of getting it wrong by other people, being judged, being criticized, being rejected. There's just so much that goes into why somebody would resort to masking. And it's not an obvious tool that we would go, do you know what, I'm feeling really stressed and I don't want to deal with people, so I'll just put on a mask and pretend to be somebody else. We don't physically or emotionally do that. We find that we just become this persona, don't we, when we go out the front door. And I know for me, when I started understanding masking, I couldn't believe how much I did it. I mean, it was really quite shocking. It was literally, I stepped outside my front door as an adult and I couldn't cope with, without putting on my nurse's hat uniform, as it were, to feel able to engage with people, which is really quite shocking because I know a lot of people think that I find it really easy to talk, really easy to engage. And I still struggle with it even today. The autism exhibition was a really big hit home of, oh, I still have this one. But certainly in my very early career of being a nurse, I really struggled. And it was in some way a relief when I did graduate, but then I had this horrible reaction of being an imposter, which made me cling on even tighter to, oh, I'm a nurse, to be accepted. It was a really, it was a really severed line. I couldn't be myself unless I was behind my closed doors. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I haven't gone into like my career, I haven't gone into a university kind of setting, but during secondary school, it was very apparent. I kind of was a different person when I was at school because I felt outside pressures of, I've got to act this way or be perceived like this, but I've had it in the past I had a friend say to me when I answered the phone to you once, "Oh my God, you've just changed person." And I was like, I don't think so. I think you're a little bit wrong there. And they're like, "No, you speak really differently to your mum." And I was like, "Yeah, but she's my mum." And they went, "No, your entire voice changes and everything." And I'm like, oh okay,
Yeah, so that's interesting, isn't it?
Well, I didn't realise that, but you've done it as well. So
Yeah.
when you go into your professional mode, you are a totally different person. It's like, I don't know who I'm talking to at the moment, I don't want to say it's split personality because that's not what it is. But like your entire demeanor changes. You sit up straighter, you're like more tense, and it's like, oh, okay, we've gone into professional mode. Okay.
Do you think then that we talk about nature nurture, when children are very, very young. Do you think I have trained you to be like that? Or do you think that you are naturally having to change when you've gone into anxiety provoking arenas?
No, I don't think you trained me in a necessary way, because even when I was, in secondary school, the personality I was at school was still a personality that was more likely to be picked on. So, if I was going to pick any personality and do it on purpose, surely I'd want to be like, the popular one who doesn't get picked on. But no, I decided during school hours, I am, heavy scene emo kid. That wasn't what I was like outside of school. So, I don't think that was something necessarily influenced by you, because I can still remember you saying, "Do you have to listen to this screaming?" And I'm like, "It's not screaming, it's Pierce the Veil, get used to it." And then I was like, you know what, it's not who I was. And I, like I said in a couple of episodes, I'm so glad that you did allow me to dye my hair and express myself, but you went, "Absolutely not. You are not dyeing your hair dark black. You are not having this haircut. That's insane." And I'm sat there going, I'm so glad she said no.
Gosh.
I got away with the slightly cherry red hair, and I think and I got a long fringe, and I think that's as close as I got. So,
So did you feel obligated then to kind of blend in with what you felt was your tribe at the time?
Yeah, I kind of feel like, especially during my secondary school, I was the newcomer. Even though I joined in year 8, everybody else already kind of knew each other. And I've said it time and time again, and I don't know if the people who I was friends with is going to like it if they ever see this, but we weren't friends because we wanted to be friends. We were friends out of convenience, because if we hadn't been this group, we would have all been loners who had no friends whatsoever. So you were just together to have a group together, because you didn't want to be the one who was by themselves. So it wasn't that I chose these people because I got along with them necessarily. It wasn't because I really liked them as a person. It was the fact that if I didn't have them, I had nobody. And I would constantly come home from school and say, "Oh, this person's done this." And you're like, "I don't understand why you're friends with them." And it's like, well, I have to be, because otherwise I've got no friends. I'd rather have 5 people who I don't really like because of the way they treat me, because of the way they act, than have nobody and then be seen as even more of an outcast. So it's kind of like a protective thing, I guess.
That's really interesting, because I think there must be hundreds of thousands of, millions of young people in that very same predicament. And it's quite an eye-opener in that, you're having to be part of a group to feel safe. So already we know that there's huge volumes of anxiety there for you, and presumably if everybody in the group is like you, having to be together in a group to feel safer, we've now got 5 of you as individuals all struggling with huge volumes of anxiety. And I wonder how many of them were able to convey to their parents how anxious they felt.
Well, the thing is as well, I think it's very easy for people to get confused. When I say I was in a group because, it's better to be in numbers than be picked off one by one. It wasn't that other students were violent. I wasn't terrified I was going to, be flushed headfirst down a toilet. It wasn't like that. It was just, I felt emotionally like, oh God, I'm gonna stand out. But I had quite a few friends over my school career who said, "Oh, I wish my mum was your mum," or "Oh, I wish my parents were like your mum," And then when it came out, "Oh, did you know my mum used to ride a motorbike?" Your mum? No, I wish my mum was your mum. And I was like, oh, okay. And sometimes I was like, you know what, you can have her. I don't want her. They go, no, but she's so amazing. And it's like, okay, okay. But I never heard anyone else saying to, the other people in my friendship group, oh, I wish I had your parents. It was only ever my parents, who people were like, oh, I wish I had your mum, or, I wish I could talk to my mum the way you talk to yours. And it was like, oh, because obviously I raised up being quite open. So when everyone was going, oh, I really wish I had that kind of relationship, I'm sat there going, this is not a normal relationship. This is normal for me, So I think I got a bit, not confused, but maybe just unsure of why our relationship seemed this unique thing. I'm not sure.
And I guess if you have lots and lots of siblings, it's quite difficult, isn't it, to kind of get those protected moments with parents. I wanted to talk about an incident that I've learned quite recently, and it kind of just reiterates how good sometimes our young people are at masking. So we know that obviously lots of teenagers go to school, and lots of teenagers will come home, and the parents will say, how was your day? And the obvious response, of course, is fine, whatever. Very little is fed back. And I know the way that I got around you was very much about, I'm going to meet you with the drink, snack. In a 20-minute journey, you would vent, so that by the time you got home, you were really quite well chilled. But for a lot of parents, for a lot of teenagers, they don't have that opportunity, and it's a very missed opportunity. But also for young people, they have quite an intense day. And we've had a young person recently who was attacked, and who, first of all, lied to the parents and then lied to the school, only to be found out because of what the attackers had done. And to go to that level of lying and be very adamant, they weren't at the scene, they weren't involved. The reason why they were hurt was because people were messing around. So that extremities, I just wondered if you could help us out a bit here, because obviously I'm quite antiquated and you're a lot closer to that time frame. But do you remember feeling under a lot of duress to kind of play things right down?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it is a school environment. It's not prison. It's not, I can't get bodyguards to walk me. So, teachers will always go, oh yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. And it's like, yeah, but are you actually going to?
Yeah.
Because what if I'm walking down the corridor to history after coming from English, and they say something, or, there was a girl who I'd never met, and she tried to shove me down a flight of stairs multiple times. And I've never spoken to this person, and I told the teachers about it, and they went, okay, well, she's not in your side of the year group, so you shouldn't have any run-ins with her. And it was like, well, I didn't stop her on her way to PE trying to shove me down a flight of stairs, and they go, oh yeah, but we're watching it, we're monitoring the situation. And it's like, but unless you're watching me 24/7,
yeah,
and the thing with bullies, unfortunately, is they will watch and they will recognize when teachers are looking and when teachers aren't looking. So they will save up all of this bullying tactics and do it when the teacher's not looking, because, I'm not going to be escorted to every class, am I? That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's all good and well them saying, oh yeah, we'll monitor the situation, but you can't actually do anything about it. So that still leaves me terrified. Would I rather be, picked on and bullied normally, or would I rather it be more intense because I've been seen as a snitch? I don't want to be seen as a snitch. That's the thing. And then you've got this pressure holding over you of going, well, I really don't like the way these people are treating me. It's really uncomfortable. It makes me hate this environment. But if I say anything, that brings more attention. It is like lighting a flare and going, this person is picking on me. And it just draws more attention to yourself. And I find that most of the time, it does actually make it worse, which is really unfortunate, but it does. I can't be protected the entire time. And me going to you, teachers often first port of call will be, well, I'll go and talk to the student you've had an issue with. And it's like, yeah, but then you're just blatantly going to them saying, oh, by the way, blah, 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 snitched on you, saying you're treating them like this. That's going to cause even more points as to why they're going to pick on me,
Yeah. So I know that we have 2 young people at the moment who were attacked outside of school. So literally going home from school. And that's even more frightening because, you're not surrounded by potential others who could be witnesses. But also we have had young people attacked in school. One was pushed into a cupboard and a teacher came in and had to unlock the cupboard to let the young person out. So I suppose the point we're making really is there is a lot of anxiety anyway, but you don't particularly feel safe. So if you know that you're a target, and believe me, you learn pretty quickly, don't you, that you're a target, you are going to try and find safety in numbers and try and really blend in. But that then increases the need to mask and be something you're not. Would you agree?
Yeah. I unfortunately had a friend who ended up leaving school because, and this is the thing, it's not, if you were to line up kids in a class and say who's going to be the bully, it really depends on where you're sitting, because the group of kids who did this to him had never been mean to me. I did work with them in class and they seemed nice people. We just weren't, they were sporty, I wasn't, but a group of 6 lads picked him up and threw him in a bin, head first into a bin. And the teacher came along and told him off. And it's like, he's in a bin. He didn't magically end up in the bin. He was literally picked up and put in a bin by 6 boys who, were the popular kids, the sporty kids. So, of course, they had, I don't want to say teachers' protection, but they definitely had favoritism. And unfortunately, this kid clearly had autism, maybe ADHD, and he could be a bit much for me.
Yeah.
But because of that, he really didn't find safety in numbers. So he ended up having to leave the school. And when he left, he started his new school and his entire personality changed. He was just like, I cannot go through this again. And it scares me even now. I didn't think that was something I was going to have to go through when I was at school. So knowing that, there's still younger generations who are going to be going into environments where other kids think it's okay to, because at that point, if that were to happen outside of the school walls, that's a crime. That is a crime. Just because it happens in 4 walls where we get an education doesn't make it less of, a crime. They've assaulted somebody. You can't go up to somebody on the streets of Woking and go, you know what, I don't know you, but I'm going to put you in a bin. You can't do that. But teachers will go, oh, yeah, but we're in an environment where everyone's growing, learning. They don't know who they are as people yet. And it's like, yes, but we should still know you don't go and physically assault people.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of these kids getting punished. But I remember this boy literally got out of the bin and this teacher started berating him, going, what are you doing? Why are you behaving like that? And it's like, he's been put headfirst into a bin. How is any of this his fault? He was walking to a lesson and they jumped him. They jumped him and put him in a bin. You know?
Yeah. So I suppose another angle of masking is thinking about actually being in a classroom environment where, I've got a sort of 2 or 3 really young individuals, and they don't want to ask to go to the toilet because they're terrified of the teacher, and they don't want to put their hand up, and they don't want to sit at the front of the class or next to the teacher, and they don't want to eat at lunchtime because they're terrified they will then have to go to the toilet. And they don't want to really talk to anybody other than maybe they might have one close friend. All that screams to me is this huge volume of anxiety. But to an outsider going in, you would not see this child particularly stand out because they're not doing anything. They're literally not doing anything. They're just blending in the very, very best they can. And that is concerning because if you were on the inside of the skin, as it were, of the body, you would feel the adrenaline coursing through your veins. You would see the thinking, the thought pattern of, I dare not put my hand up. I'm terrified of being told off. I'm terrified that somebody will gang up on me. I'm terrified. So all this trauma is going on, isn't it? And again, where do you feel safe? What did you feel when you were at school?
I have had a situation. I don't know if I ever told you this or if you remember it. I was 8 though. And I had this teacher who terrified me so much. I actually wet myself in class. I was 8 years old and I pissed myself because I was so terrified and I didn't want to ask, can I go to the bathroom? And then I was so embarrassed. I kept trying to subtly get up to get blue towels to try and tidy it up. Because I was so scared of this woman, I just I couldn't ask, can I go to the toilet? Because I thought she'd say no. And unfortunately we had quite a few issues with this teacher, to the point you ended up, having a screaming match with her. But and I'm thinking about it now, I think I've kind of blocked that out, but I think of the memory and I'm like, I remember exactly how I was feeling in that situation. And, I'm 8 years old. I should be able to go to the toilet. I should be able to do that. But this lady scared me so much. And then I think throughout my kind of school career, regularly you would go to parents' evening and they'd say, oh, Yasmin's a really quiet kid. She just gets on with it. And it's like, am I quiet or am I just trying not to draw attention to myself? There are two different things. Because you would often go, are we talking about the same child?
Yeah, I did.
And the teacher would go, oh yeah, she's lovely. She's a delight to have in class. She doesn't do anything. She minds her own business. And it's like, yes, because I'm terrified. If I say something or do something, it's going to get people to pick on me. Because, I was in an English class when I was in year 7. And obviously I'm dyslexic. So spelling is not my strong point, So we used to have spelling tests, and you and I would regularly work really, really hard on it. And I would constantly get, 2 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 0 out of 10. And this teacher used to tell me off all the time. And then one day she caught a classmate of mine calling me Yasmin Spasmin because I can't spell. And they kept calling me a spastic. And I was so upset. And I just didn't understand why that was, he tried to get the whole class to call me that. And I didn't understand what I'd done because I wasn't talking to him. I wasn't showing off my results. As soon as I knew, we've only got 3 out of 10, I would try to hide it so much. So he wasn't my friend. He didn't sit near me. So I don't know how he found out. And so I just went really quiet for that entire class, and my teacher finally said, oh, why are you suddenly so quiet? Because you're being even quieter than usual. And I went, I'm really struggling with spelling. I work really hard on it, and I'm now being called names about it. And then after that, she was a lot more lenient on me, but I still remember being called names like that. And I think that's kind of the first period in my life where I was like, I absolutely hate my name. I want a name that can't be, manipulated like that. I have to admit, you have to give it to him. It was definitely a unique nickname. He had to put some thought into that, but still, and I'm sat there going, well, I already know I'm weird. You don't have to, label me. So, yeah.
I think it's interesting how you stress the terrified, and I've stressed it because of the children I've been working with. It is that real terrifying situation. But what really is really quite distressing for me as a clinician is the fact that I know that if we were to see you in class live snapshot, we would not see a terrified Yasmin.
No.
I know that all my young people, we would not see a terrified child or teenager. And the only clues we have is when our children come home. And that's so, so difficult to convey to other professionals, particularly teachers. And I know they're really busy and they're overstretched, under-resourced. I absolutely get it. But it is really concerning when there are some very subtle signs that a young person is struggling. And some of our young people will go to extraordinary lengths to avoid getting into trouble, by lying, by, going out of the house late at night. They will steal food. They will do all sorts of things that really tell us a very, very different story. And of course, a lot of our young people have real sleep issues as well. But when you think about the terrifying state, what did you think was going to happen? Can you remember that?
Again, I think people are going to think I thought something really bad was going to happen. I was going to be, held down and beaten up. That's not what it was. It was all psychological terror. I didn't think anything was actually going to happen to me. Like, I never went into school and thought I'm going to be beaten up to the point that I'm going to potentially die. I never thought like that, but it was always like, these people are going to look at me and I don't like having attention on me. It's almost like the only way I can describe it is I hope everybody goes through this, because otherwise it's just another thing going, oh God, okay, it's just me, okay. When you have to read something aloud to your class, you'd always have to skim a couple of heads going, oh, is that the paragraph I'm going to be lumbered with? And you'd have to pre-read it because you're like, I do not want to stutter, say the word wrong. That's because everyone's going to laugh. That's the thing. Everyone laughs. It's kind of like nowadays in a pub when somebody drops a glass and everyone goes, way, I don't want that attention. I don't need that. I don't need it. I don't want it. So I feel like I was quite lucky most of my secondary school experience. It was, oh, Yasmin, you'll read the next paragraph. And then, well, that's all we've got time for today. And I'm like, oh, yeah, good. Yasmin, you'll start us off next lesson. Next lesson come round and she'd forget because I'm so quiet. I was like, oh, so quite a lot of times I've managed to get away with not having to do it. But it's at least for me, the main fact was people were going to look at me. And I know I overthink.
Mm.
I can even go into Tesco's now and think that lady's looking at me. Is it because I'm too tall? Is it because, I'm slightly overweight? Is it because my makeup doesn't look nice? Or like, I look messy, It's all these little things. But then when you've got multiple pairs of eyes on you, it becomes overwhelming trying to deduce what everyone is looking at. And they're probably thinking something like, Yasmin, wrong, whatever. But I'm sat there thinking it's like the end of the world, thinking, John thinks I'm an idiot. Sophie thinks, oh, great, she's done it again. And it's like, I can't think of all this stuff at once. And then I get overwhelmed and then I'm thinking, I'm so overwhelmed, I want to cry. But if I cry, that's going to bring more attention onto myself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a very vicious cycle. And then you have teachers who regularly say, oh, she's a really good student. And it's like, great. Am I now being labeled as like a goody two shoes? I don't want to be that either. You know, I just want to get through without getting any of these labels, and it's very hard to do.
I think that's really valuable information. So I'm extremely grateful to you for that, because I think there is a lot of young people who are absolutely struggling and just not able to get away from that very torturous thinking pattern of people will be looking at me, people will be judging me. And yes, you know, I know that for some of our young people, they have been tortured, they have been terribly, terribly bullied. So they have even more reason to feel scared about going into school. But still, nevertheless, I do believe it all starts from that real fear of I'm going to be judged and I'm going to be criticized. But I also wonder whether it's more about I'm actually going to be rejected. Because if we come full circle back to how we started with you saying, I didn't want to be in this particular group, but it was either that or, you know, we'd be 5 loners, and actually it was safer being in a group. I think sometimes some individuals at schools really, really struggle with being part of a group because they are so bitterly rejected and they don't really know why. I know that one of our female teenagers said quite openly that they deliberately in secondary school acquired 2 or 3 groups to be part of, so that whenever one group got a bit too bitchy for their liking, they could just slope off. But they insisted they were always on the edge, never in the middle, always on the periphery, so that they could, you know, almost glide away without being noticed that they were no longer part of the group. And then they just kind of go around all the groups. And I think that must be quite common as well.
Well, unfortunately, I did not have that option. I kind of wish I had, but it's almost like emotionally being on a path and there's 3 people. You know you're going to be the one who has to walk behind or on the road because there is not enough room for all of you. And it's knowing that that's always going to be me. I'm always going to be the one who, you know, I have to walk on the road. I have to walk behind. I have to walk ahead. I don't get to stay in the nice 2 and continue our conversation. I'm the expendable part. That's the thing. And I've written about it in one of our blogs. I am the very deletable person on the edge of the photograph. If you fold it over, you can Photoshop me out and you wouldn't notice I'm missing. So unfortunately, I'm now at the age where I've got people who I went to school with who have gone through university. Some of them are graduating, some of them are staying on. And I haven't had that experience. And I'm kind of, I get quite low even now thinking, have I really kind of thrown my life away? Because I didn't do college. I tried it, wasn't for me. And because I didn't do college, can't do university. And I don't have friends that I now go out with to the pub or something. My friends that I hang out with are my parents, you know? And then I'm wondering...
Don't forget your pets.
Yeah, but then I'm wondering, thinking, what is the most exciting thing I've posted on my Facebook lately? Oh, yes. I went out for my mum's birthday. Great. And everyone else is posting, you know, oh, I've gone for a night out with my friends. And I'm like, must be nice. And then I'm also like, I don't want to go clubbing. I don't like loud music. I don't like overwhelming. You know? So I'm in a catch-22 going, I want that, but I don't like it. But it's because I don't have the option. If I had the option, maybe I'd be more open. But because I don't, you know, so then I get terrified. Oh, God. Am I just going to die with 0 friends? Because I've got online friends, because again, my personality online is slightly different to my in real life personality. Like I can get along with somebody really, really well, but as soon as it's like they're going to see me in person, I get so stressed about it because I get so overwhelmingly worried I'm not going to meet their expectations. That's the thing, and I know that's the thing. And again, I always think, I'm going to be too tall for this person. It's going to be embarrassing for them to be seen with me. And so I get so worried about what everyone else is going to think. And I try so hard to break out of that, but it's really hard. It's, you know, it's very hard to get out of like a 6-foot hole when there's nobody on the outside to kind of help you. And I get so worried somebody is going to be embarrassed of me. And the idea that I'm embarrassing somebody else makes me so worried and panicked. I would rather not do it.
And yet these people would have no idea, because it's like your body language, your face doesn't convey any of that.
Exactly.
Somebody's put down here, I'm just going to show it if I can. Yes. Getting attention as praise seems almost as stressful as getting attention for something bad. I so agree with that. My two hated being singled out in any way. My son asked me never to be given Star of the Week, as he'd then have to stand up in front of everyone. That's
Star of the Week, bane of my life, especially when it was in assemblies and they would never tell you it was coming. They would just read your name out, and then you're like, oh great, I've got to awkwardly shuffle past some people, I've got to walk in front of everybody, I've got to hope I don't trip or like, you know, do something embarrassing. Then I've got to come back and kind of like, excuse me, can I just waddle? Too much stress. Just tell me outside, give me the certificate. It's not even like something that I want. You know, that's why I liked it when I missed school and they would send the certificate through the post, because it's like, could you not just do that all the time? Then I don't have to get up in front of everybody. You know, and it's even worse when it's like they're reading out the names and then you see your name on the PowerPoint and you're like, oh God. It's like a game. I volunteer as tribute. If anybody else wants to go out for me, that's fine. I don't mind. But then you see your name, and again, you're just waiting for them to call it, and everyone's turning to you, going, "Yasmin, it's you. You're Star of the Week." And it's like, stop talking to me. If I could just, you know, evaporate out of this situation, I would. I'd be gone. Bye. You know. So yeah.
I've got one young client at the moment who has stated that they can't go up and possibly collect their rosette in a dressage show. And they've only now put themselves down forward for going forward for the national show. And I'm like, what are you going to do? Run. Yeah, I get it. Somebody else has put, I spent my high school life on the periphery of a few social groups as one got too overwhelming, but never committing enough to really belong. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's that real sense of I don't actually belong, but I'm trying to tag on like you were doing, like you said, just to feel that you were part of something. I suppose the bit that I'm thinking about is, you know, when our children become even more determined to cover up their tracks, that they resort to lying or stealing, that's a bit of an issue, isn't it? Because, you know, they feel clearly very unsafe at school as it is, but to then resort to very negative behaviour is concerning, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think with the belonging thing, it's everybody wants to belong, and when it's so painfully obvious you don't,
yeah,
it's crushing. It's absolutely crushing. Again, it's like, you know, sports. You don't want to be picked last because you know nobody really wants you. You just been handed off to somebody because you've got to include them.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't want that. Like I would love to have a group of friends that I can go out with, but I don't. And sometimes I'm like, well, it's my fault. But at the same time, I'm like, would I rather be in a group where I know I'm not really wanted? If I wasn't there, nobody would notice I'm missing. You know, it's kind of like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly, you know, bearing in mind how old I am now, I can still remember being a young teenager and playing things like rounders or netball and having to be divvied up into teams. And I was always the last one to be picked, always. And it just drove me nuts because particularly with rounders, although I couldn't run very fast, people knew that if I got the right ball, I could really welly, you know, that ball, and the team would win. So it always really upset me, you know, why would I then always be the last to be picked? And in netball, I was the goal shooter, or more often than not, the goal attack, because again, I was quite tall for my age. I could run to get the ball to where I needed to be and then score. And you know how clumsy I am, but get me a ball and a netball, court, I could get it in from quite a distance. So again, and it was like I was really good at hockey, but always the last to be picked. It just drove me spare. And the one thing that I was always left with asking myself was, why am I not picked first, or at least in the middle? Why am I always the last one to be picked? What's wrong with me? And that core belief of what is wrong with me drove me insane, because it just made me such a wreck, a real train wreck of anxiety. And when you get picked on or bullied and you're trying so blimmin' hard to blend in with the background, not to be noticed, not to be picked on, it just drives you a bit doolally after a while, doesn't it? Because you're trying so hard not to experience the anxiety, and you're not trying to show that you're anxious, and yet you are in some way a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing your stories, hearing my stories, and obviously we've got some lovely comments as well. This isn't going away anywhere. Masking is really big. One of the things that I quite often say to my clients is about, are you an A-star actor? Because you don't need to stutter around your way. And I don't mean stuttering in somebody stutters naturally. What I mean is you stutter because you're so anxious. We are incredibly good at what we do, in that, we make out there are no issues, but equally we don't want all that praise. We don't want to feel we're sticking out like a sore thumb, and yet somehow we're still struggling. And that's really, really hard, because how do you support parents who are trying to support their children when they're not able to support the children? Because you've said all along, if you go and say to a teacher, look, there's something going on here, one is that they will go and speak to the person who's bullying, which then makes the problem 10 times worse. Or the teachers say, no, the child's fine, they're smiling, they're working hard, I mean, I've had times teachers say to me, oh yes, it was an absolute delight. I'd be like, great. She's a delight. What does that really mean again? Because the stories I'm hearing,
like, don't have to do their job. It's fine. They can focus on everybody else.
Yeah, but I would know the other side of it when you came home from school, about how hard the day has been. But still, I know that you have also lied to me several occasions, and all of them pretty much have been exacerbated by anxiety. So why do you think that is?
I'm not wondering what lies you're thinking about.
Parents know. Like, I'll give an example, shall I? Included food.
Oh, yeah, but the chocolate thing, that was...
What about the chocolate thing?
The lie was actually pretty good. It was almost Mission Impossible style. You have to give me credit for that. So I was very careful not to disrupt the tape enough, and I could just get a finger in there and get some chocolate out. And I remember the first time you caught me with them, I lied and said it was somebody's birthday at school and they'd given out sweets. And then the second time I said it was somebody else's birthday, and you went, really? And they bought the same thing? And I was like, yeah. And then the third time I think, I said I had some left over from the other two times. And then you went, do you want to open this box of chocolates as an early Christmas treat? And I was like, oh my God. And I went, no, I'm all right. And you went, really? You like chocolate? Why aren't we opening them? And I was like, because I know there's only bounties left because nobody likes those. And you went, no, I'll open it. And you took the tape off and everything. And when you opened it, and there was like 4 chocolates left. And it's like, because I remember you going, how long have you been taking these? And I was like, about a month and a half. And you were like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. Because you'd put them on top of the counter. So I'd have to climb up onto the kitchen counter, stand up to get onto the top of the cupboards, and I'd get it out. it's because you used to leave for work before me, so I had like an hour where nobody was watching me, so it was easy.
Do you remember why you lied though?
Well, yeah,
I mean,
because I was like, oh god, I'm going to be found out, and I probably wouldn't have been punished as much if I told you straight away, but there you go. Yeah.
But it's trying to get behind this. Why would we lie and pretend
Well,
that
because I
everything's
knew
all right? Huh?
I knew I shouldn't have done it, so I was like, oh god, I'm going to be caught out. And then I got really
Okay.
worried I was going to get told off. So I think that was more of like a just a kid thing getting in trouble for. I'm trying to.
So what about when I ask you, have you walked the dogs?
It's mainly when I was younger, yeah, because I do walk them now, but
But just help me out here. It's not about so you're doing it now, right now. So just help me out. Try and go behind it. Why would you do that?
Because I didn't want to walk the dogs because I didn't want to leave the house.
No, okay. Yeah, we know that bit.
Yeah.
But why would you not say, oh, do you know, I didn't want to go out today, I didn't want to walk them. Why would you then lie? So there's something about the anxiety, isn't there, and being judged. So help us out here.
I wouldn't say it's what you said. It's always like, so sometimes even now you do it. Like, have you taken the chicken out of the freezer? No. And then you give me this look and you go, Yazzie, and I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. Oh no. And I get caught and I'm like, oh no. So at least if I say, yeah, I have walked them, I don't get the Yazzie look where it's like, oh, I'm in trouble. It's not you're angry. It's more like you're exasperated of like, oh my god. And I'm like, yeah, I should have done that, shouldn't I? Oopsie.
But I think that's the bit, isn't it? It's getting into trouble. That seems to be a common theme. And I know that some young people really, really struggle with that, isn't it? That real fear of, I'm going to get into trouble. I don't want to get into trouble. So you can think about school where they have rewards and sanctions, and that's a common threat, isn't it? If you get into trouble, then you could potentially be kept behind.
Oh, yeah. But I was just looking at one of our comments.
Yeah.
When I ask my son if he's brushed his teeth, he'll sometimes say yes, but I can tell from his face that he's lying. The thing is, it reminds me of this story I heard on Reddit a while ago. So this dad told his daughter when she lies, her eyes change colour. So now every time she lies, she does this. So now he knows because she does that.
I like that.
She's like, so she's gonna get to the point where she's like, but he went, because the first couple of times, obviously, parents can sometimes tell when you're lying. So he told her this little white lie, and now every time before she lies, she just does that, and he straight away goes, whatever she's telling me is rubbish. It's not true. So yeah, and I'm often wondering, do I have telltale signs when I'm lying? I don't think so. I mean, there's supposed to be like
no. What I would say to you. Yeah, no, what I would say to you, I think, parents know their own children, and okay, sometimes the A-star actor is a brilliant, outstanding, that, even parents are foxed, but generally I think parents can tell when their children are lying. But the thing that I have always maintained to you is, please don't lie to me, because if I find out you've been lying to me, and I'm not talking about little white lies like, yeah, I've walked the dogs, not really. I'm talking about, humongous lies. And I think you have been very honest generally. If you do lie and I then found out, I'm going to be even more cross, because then I can't deal with it. I'm having to deal with a double whammy. But I think there is a lot of difficulties that if a child or a teenager, particularly a teenager, masks so well the difficulties they are having, in the long run, it's not going to bode well, is it?
Yeah, I think the saying, it's easier to ask for permission than ask for forgiveness. It's very true. I know that sometimes if I've not gone to lie to you, but maybe if I've skipped over a part that's like quite vital. Because we've had such a close relationship, I'm like, well, I've got to tell somebody and I've got nobody else to tell, so I end up telling you anyway. But I know sometimes I start laughing a little bit beforehand because it's like nervous laughter of, I wonder if she can tell I'm missing part of this sentence. I wonder if she can tell. Then I start laughing. Then I'm like, actually, you know what? And then I add it anyway. So I'd be the worst under interrogation, I'm telling you, honestly. Okay, I maybe didn't tell you the whole truth. I didn't lie. I just rearranged the truth. It's not lying, you know. But I think sometimes as well, I find sometimes I maybe lie about innocent things, like things that you didn't need to lie about. It's not like I'm making up a story, but sometimes I might like add things that aren't necessarily 100% true or stuff, and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? That literally adds nothing to this thing, you know?
I think I know what you mean, and I think there was
It's almost like to
stage.
give it some consistency. I don't know. Maybe it's because I feel like my sentence isn't enough to come across as believable. Maybe if I add some more details, it will. I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, I know you went through a phase, particularly in early secondary school, where you conveyed that things were going really well, and that, you know, you were doing so well, and people said this and you said that, and, you know, people did this, you did this, and it just seemed a bit like, okay, really? But again, for me, it was understanding you want to be validated, you want to be believed that, you know, you were able to do this or say that. And I desperately didn't want to take that away from you, because I knew that somehow, some way in your psyche, you needed that reassurance that it was believable, that you were trying to survive. But it did give me that really much bigger understanding that things were already going wrong. And I didn't know what else I could do other than what we did do was that I would always pick you up from school. I would always walk with you or drive you to school, just so that you felt a bit more supported and robust, which, you know, in the way it turned out in things, certainly helped you, you know, when it started really breaking down for you. But I know that not all families are in that position, able to do that. So I suppose what would be really helpful is, what could we encourage our parents to think about? What can we encourage our young people when they are experiencing such huge, you know, anxieties to the point where they might lie, or they might feel that they are just literally not going to be a problem to anybody because they're so terrified? Is there something that we could give as advisories?
I think the list of what to do is maybe too long, or, you know, it's probably easier to say what not to do. Don't call them out as if you know they're lying, because that automatically will just make them retreat. You know, if somebody were to straight out go, you're lying, you're not telling the truth, I don't believe you, you're just like, you either go to one extreme of, I've really got to lay it on thick so that you do believe me, or I just won't say anything at all. So it doesn't really help. You know, and I think the thing is, I don't know if it comes with age or confidence, you know, but now it's easier to ask things, because I know when I was younger, I used to have like these very weird thoughts, like, you know, what if, again, everything in my life is just scenery and I'm on a really complex TV show? We had that conversation the other day, but I've been thinking those things for years, but I've only just been able to kind of come out and go, is this normal or is it not, you know? And the thing is, unfortunately, we don't have many young viewers who watch this, which I'm hoping to change in the future. It's very hard to explain to young people that what they're going through is normal once you reach a certain age, because they're just going to think, yeah, sure, you're just saying this to make it, you know, make me feel better. But the truth it boils down is humans have been around for centuries, and I bet you everyone has felt this at some point, but because it's not been documented or written down, you think you're the only one going through it, and I assure you, you're not. I mean, we've agreed you've never had the idea that maybe I'm just in a complex coma and I made this all up. But I have thought that, and I'm sure there's other people who have thought that, you know? Yeah.
So somebody's just made a comment, trying to help my children drop their mask by trying to unmask myself at home. How lovely. Reminding them that home is a safe space for us to do whatever feels good. Yeah, that's amazing. That's so good. I think that is really crucial. It's having that safe space, particularly when a person's been cooped up at school or work. You know, let's not forget our parents who are probably unknowingly but have a suspicion that they're on the autistic spectrum if their children are, that, you know, being at home allows you to unmask, doesn't it, to be yourself. And it's really crucial that you do have time to be yourself.
Yeah, I think a really good policy to have in the home environment is you can be open and honest. You know, if you want to unfortunately bitch about somebody, it's fine, as long as you do it in the home environment. It doesn't go past these walls, you know, because I have ranted to you over the years about a lot of different people, but because I've let it out at home, I haven't ever felt the need to go and do it in public, you know, and then get caught out of saying you were speaking about me behind my back. And because of that, I know nowadays, you know, if I have something that I want to talk about, I can, because home is my safe space. And if it goes out these four walls, it's not because of something I've done. You know, it's just a good kind of place to have somewhere to offload.
Yeah.
You know, and I find with masking can be incredibly tiring.
Yeah.
And you just need a space that you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's almost like trying to keep another personality running, and it just drains you so quickly. You know, I mean, some things that other autistic people might do, I might find a bit, you know, weird or strange, and I don't understand it. But if they're in an environment where they feel more comfortable, that's fine, you know?
I know I've had young clients literally come home and their parents allow them a good half hour to an hour to either just sit in silence or do stimming or just spend time on a trampoline. And these are such powerful opportunities to allow children to just decompress when they've been so clearly struggling at school. And, you know, it's just finding ways, isn't it, where you can just feel, just let me have time to recover, but let me be myself. And, you know, if we don't do that, where do our children go when they so desperately need that opportunity? But again, you know, it's like, you know, parents saying, I need to drop my mask as well. And I also have found that, particularly when I was younger, the one thing that made me feel that I could be myself was the minute I got home to my dogs and cats. You know, I could suddenly be indulgent and very nurturing with them, but equally they were thrilled to see me, and I didn't have to be pretending to be somebody else. And I suppose that's just carried on throughout the years.
Yeah, sorry.
To yourself, because
there was a period of time when my dog Jude got so excited to see you, he used to pee on you. You'd have to go, I'd open the door and you'd go, he has to come outside here, because he'd get so excited going, oh, you're back, oh, you're here, and then he'd just unfortunately start peeing a little bit because he was so excited. And it was like, oh, okay. You know.
Yeah. So we're nearly on the button. Thank you, Yasmin, so much, because obviously it's been really interesting to kind of just go behind what's going on with masking. I really hope this has been useful for so many parents who are kind enough to watch, and indeed young people, because I know we do have our fans who like to watch it as well. So we will be back next week. I have no idea what's on the topic. I know that Yasmin's trying to keep me in order with my diary, as does John. But we will be back next week on Wednesday at 12:15. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care. Bye bye for now.